Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Logan Caldwell never imagined that a dumb joke with his best friend would become the turning point of his 7-year marriage. A 38-year-old civil engineer, he had a predictable routine. In Denver, waking up early, drinking coffee made by Bethany, his 35-year-old wife, kissing her goodbye before heading to the office, and returning home expecting Toph and her working on her graphic design projects in their makeshift home office. Bethany was talented and dedicated, and Logan had always been proud of how she'd built a solid freelance client base over the years. They didn't have kids yet, but they talked about it on Friday nights when they ordered Thai food and watched shows together on the couch. Their house in a quiet Denver neighborhood reflected both of their personalities. Logan had his engineering project spread across his second-floor office, while Bethany filled the living room with her design equipment, 2 computer monitors, and meticulously organized color swatches. In the mornings, Logan would wake up first and brew coffee that was always too strong, and Bethany would laughingly complain that he was trying to kill her with caffeine. It was a comfortable, predictable, safe routine, the exact kind of life Logan had always wanted after growing up in a chaotic household where his parents constantly fought. That Tuesday in October, Logan was having lunch with Jake Patterson, his friend since college, at a Mexican restaurant near the office. Jake was a real estate agent, a confirmed bachelor, and loved teasing Logan about being too domesticated. Between nachos and beers, the conversation drifted toward relationships, fidelity, and those ridiculous stories everyone's heard about loyalty tests. Jake mentioned a video he'd seen online where a guy faked a phone call accusing his girlfriend of cheating just to see her reaction. Logan laughed and thought it was ridiculous, but Jake kept pushing. "Dude, I bet Beth would be furious. She'd slap you and make you sleep on the couch for a week," Jake said, laughing as he dipped another nacho into the guacamole. Logan shook his head, but the idea stuck with him, not because he believed Bethany was cheating on him, but because deep down in some quiet corner of his mind, there was that nagging curiosity every rational man hates to admit. He trusted her, but he also knew that absolute trust sometimes comes more from routine than from certainty. It would just be a way to prove to Jake that Bethany was different, that she wouldn't even flinch at such an absurd accusation. "I don't know, man. Seems kind of dumb," Logan said, taking a sip of his beer. Jake leaned forward, excited. "Exactly. That's why it works. It's so ridiculous. Her reaction will be totally genuine. I'll bet you $50 she'll laugh in your face and call you an idiot." Logan thought for a moment. "Easy. $50. And it'd be funny to see her get mad." "All right. Let's do it," Logan said, surprising even himself. Jake's eyes widened and he grinned. "Seriously? You're serious?" Logan shrugged. "Why not? It'll be funny watching her yell at me, and you'll have to admit, I've got the most faithful wife on the planet." They worked out the details. Jake would call Logan that same night while he was with Bethany. He'd say he was passing through the Cherry Creek area and saw Bethany entering a huddle with another man. Vague enough to seem implausible, specific enough to sound like a real accusation. Logan got home that night at 6:30 and found Bethany in the kitchen making pasta for dinner. She was wearing black leggings and an oversized t-shirt, her brown hair pulled up in a messy bun, and she smiled when he walked in. "Hey, sweetheart. How was your day?" she asked, turning to kiss him. Logan felt a pang of guilt. She seemed so genuine, so relaxed, but it was just a joke. He reminded himself. They ate dinner while chatting about her project for a tech startup and the problems with one of his clients who wanted to change the structural plan mid-construction. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. At 8:15, Logan's phone rang. It was Jake. Logan answered on speakerphone as they'd planned. "Hey, Jake, what's up?" His friend's voice came tense as if uncomfortable. "Logan, man, look, I didn't want to call you with this, but I'm driving past Cherry Creek and I just saw Bethany." Logan feigned confusion. "Beth? She's here with me, dude." There was a pause. "No, Logan. I saw her going into a huddle with some guy about 20 minutes ago. I wasn't sure if I should tell you, But I figured you had a right to know. Logan looked at Bethany, expecting her to roll her eyes or laugh at the prank. But what saw made him freeze. Bethany had gone pale. Her eyes were wide, fixed on his phone as if she'd just seen a ghost. Her hand trembled as she held her fork. Sheepened her mouth, but no sound came out. She swallowed hard, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape that didn't exist. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, "Logan, hang up, please. Not here." Logan's world collapsed in that instant. Jake kept ticking on the other end of the line, probably confused by the silence, but Logan couldn't hear anything over there in his own ears. Bethany wasn't lying. She wasn't outraged. She was terrified. The stupid joke he'd set up had just revealed something painfully real. "Jake, I'll call you back," Logan said, hanging up without waiting for a reply. He placed the phone on the table slowly, never taking his eyes off Bethany. She was trembling now, tears forming in the corners of her eyes. She started, but he raised his hand. "No," Hazade, surprised at how calm his voice sounded. "Don't lie now." Not after that reaction. Bethany covered her face with her hands and started sobbing. Logan felt anger rising, but he kept control. He needed to hear. He needed to know. "How long?" he asked. Bethany shook her head, still hiding her face. "Bethany, how long?" She finally looked up at him, her eyes red and wet. 8 months, she whispered. 8 months. Logan felt like he'd been punched in the gut. 8 months was almost a year. 8 months meant daily lies, fakenesses, empty "I love you." He stood up from the table, needing space to breathe. His legs felt shaky, and has steadied himself by gripping the back of the chair. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. Bethany stood too, reaching out to him, but he instinctively stepped back. "Logan, please let me explain." Her voice came out, broken between sobs. "Explain," he interrupted, his voice still controlled, but icy in a way he'd never spoken to her before. "Explain." 8 months of lies. 8 months of you sleeping beside me, knowing you were cheating. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to process. "How many times, Bethany? How many times did you leave this house, kiss me goodbye, say you were meeting a client or a friend, and go meet him instead?" Bethany didn't answer. She just covered her face again. Logan felt his anger rising, but forced himself to stay calm. He needed information. He needed to understand the full extent of her betrayal. "Then explain. Who is he?" Bethany hesitated. Colin Brennan. He's an architect. We worked on a project together back in February." And she stopped, realizing no excuse would make sense. Logan recognized the name. He remembered Bethany casually mentioning an architect she was collaborating with in a branding campaign for a boutique firm. She talked about him the way she talked about any other client. "Did you bring him here into our home?" Logan asked. Bethany shook her head quickly. "No, never. I swear." That should have been a relief, but it wasn't. It changed nothing. Logan picked up his phone again and called Jake. His friend answered, worried. "Dude, sorry. Did I ruin the joke? Did Beth get mad?" Logan let out a bitter laugh. "Jake, it wasn't a joke. It was true. She's been cheating on me for 8 months." There was a stunned silence on the other end. "Holy Logan, I didn't know. Was it just a coincidence that I picked Cherry Creek?" "Apparently not a coincidence at all," Logan said, staring at Bethany, who had slumped back into her chair, sobbing. "Thanks for calling. Seriously. I'll talk to you tomorrow." He hung up and sat in the living room far from Bethany. He needed to think. He needed a process. But part of him also wanted indoors. Bethany appeared in the doorway, wiping tears with her t-shirt sleeve. "I ended it with him. Last week I broke it off. Logan, I was going to tell you." Logan gave a dry laugh. "Going to tell Mewan? After another 6 months? Another year?" She shook her head desperately. "No. I really was going to tell you. I was scared, but I was going to." "Where did you meet?" Logan asked, ignoring her excuses. Bethany swallowed hard. "Hotels usually, sometimes at his office after work hours." Logan felt sick. He pictured Bethany leaving the house, kissing him at the door. saying she had a client meeting, and then going to another man's bed. How many times? Dozens? Hundreds? Does he know you're married? Logan asked. Bethany slowly nodded. Heck nows. He's married too. Logan closed his eyes. Of course. He was. Of course. This Colin was also cheating on someone else, destroying another person, another family. Kids? He asked. Bethany shook her head. No, he doesn't have any. That night, Logan didn't sleep. Bethany tried to approach him several times, tried to talk, tried to apologize, but he didn't want to hear it. He was processing, planning. He stayed in the living room until 3 o'clock in the morning, staring at the ceiling, reliving moments from the past 8 months. How many signs had he missed? How many late work meetings had been lies? How many times had she said, I love you, right after being with another man? The next morning, he left early and went straight to the law office of Jane Marsh, a divorce attorney who had handled a colleague separation 2 years earlier. Janet welcomed him with coffee and professional seriousness. She was a woman in her mid-50s, her gray hair pulled back in a flawless bun, thin-framed glasses perched on her nose. Tell me everything from the beginning, she said, opening a notepad. Logan told her about the call, Bethy's reaction, her confession. Janet took careful notes, asking precise questions. Proven infidelity. No children. No complicated shared assets. Should be relatively straightforward, Janet said, looking over her glasses. But I need you to keep a cool head. No public confrontations. No violence. Let the law do its job. Logan agreed. He wasn't violent. He never had been. Beth wasn't going to let this go quietly either. I want her out of the house as soon as possible, he said. Janet nodded. Well, work on that. You're to let to the house considering you paid the down payment. I'll prepare the paperwork today. He returned home that afternoon and found Bethany waiting in the living room, her eyes swollen from crying. Logan, can we talk, please? Logan sat in the armchair across from her. Go ahead. Bethany took a deep breath. No, there's no excuse. I know I destroyed everything, but I need you to know that I love you. I've always loved you. It was a mistake. It was selfishness. It was a choice. Logan interrupted. It wasn't a mistake, Bethany. A mistake is forgetting your wallet at home. A mistake is spilling coffee on your shirt. You chose every single day for 8 months to keep lying. You chose him over me repeatedly. Bethany started crying again. I ended it with him. Logan, I chose you. I can go to therapy. We can go to coos therapy. I can. Logan raised his hand. No, it's over. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll be served divorce papers in a few days. I want you out of the house by the end of the week. Logan, don't do this. Please. 7 years of marriage. She stopped when she saw his expression. There was a coldness there she'd never seen before. Logan stood up. 7 years that you threw away. Not me. You. In the days that followed, Logan made a decision. He wasn't just going to get divorced. He was going to make sure Colin Brennan faced consequences too. It wasn't about revenge, Logan told himself. It was about justice, about making sure men like Colin didn't get away with destroying families. He hired a private investigator named Ed Marcus, a retired cop in his 60s who worked with absolute discretion. Within 48 hours, Marcus delivered a manila envelope containing photos of Colin and Bethany entering and leaving hotels on at least 4 different occasions, along with Colin's home address in a gated community in Littleton and the name of his wife, Amanda Brennan. Marcus also discovered that Colin and Amanda had been married for 12 years and had no children. Logan wrote a letter. Not long, not dramatic, just ethics, stated clearly and directly. Mrs. Brennan, I'm sorry to inform you that your husband, Colin, has been in an extramarital relationship with my wife, Bethany Caldwell, for approximately 8 months. I've enclosed photographs events. I believe you deserve to know the truth just as I did. He added 3 of the clearest photos, placed it all in an envelope, and mailed it to Amanda Brennan. 2 days later, he got a call from an unknown number. It was Amanda. She was crying, thanking him, saying she'd suspected but had no proof. She said she was getting a divorce too. Logan felt a strange sense of solidarity with this woman he never met, but Logan didn't stop there. Colin worked at a respected Denver architecture firm known for value index and reputation. Logan anonymously sent factual information to the firm's administrative letting the company evaluate the conduct of one of its professionals. He wasn't looking for a scandal. He just didn't want to carry the weight of it alone. 3 weeks later, Jake called Logan with news. Dude, did you see Colin Brennan got fired? It was in the local business paper. Unethical conduct. Logan didn't feel pleasure, but he felt justice. Bethany also lost her contract with the startup after rumors of the affair began circulating, apparently. The wife of one of the founders was friends with Amanda Brennan. The world was small. The divorce moved quickly. No kids, no major financial disputes. Bethany tried to claim the house, but Logan had documentation proving he'd paid the entire down payment before they married. She left with half of the urgent account and her personal belongings, and moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Logan threw himself into work. He accepted a big project in Boulder that required frequent travel, which was perfect. Less time at home, less time thinking. Jake and other friends tried to get him to go out, meet new people, but Logan wasn't ready. He was still processing, still healing. 6 months after the divorce, Logan was at a cafe in Cherry Creek, ironically, near the very area Jake had mentioned in that fateful call when he saw Bethany. She was alone, waiting in line, looking tired. Her hair was different, shorter, cut just past her shoulders. She had deep under-eye circles and looked like she'd lost weight. She saw him too and froze, her expression showing surprise and something that looked like shame. For a moment, neither of them moved. The barista called the next customer, but Bethany didn't budge. Then she took a deep breath and slowly approached, her steps hesitant. "Hi," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. Logan nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "Hi!" An uncomfortable silence hung between them. People around them chatted. Coffee machines hissed. Soft music played in the background. But between them there was only heavy silence. "Are you okay?" she asked, nervously twisting her hands. Logan took a sip of his coffee, letting the question hang in the air for a few seconds before answering. "I am." "And you?" Bethany shrugged, trying to smile, but failing. "Surviving. Lost some clients, but I'm rebuilding. Moved to the east side of town. Smaller apartment, but it's what I can afford now." She hesitated, biting her lower lip. "I'm so sorry, Logan. Really? Every day I think about what I did, about what I destroyed. If I could go back. But you can't." Logan gently interrupted. No anger in his voice, just acknowledgement. Logan looked at her. It still hurt. It probably always would, at least a little. But the anger had cooled, turning into something closer to indifference. "I know," he simply said. Bethany waited, maybe hoping he'd say more, but Logan had nothing else to add. She nodded slowly, understanding. "Take care of yourself, Logan." He watched as she picked up her coffee and walked out, not looking back. Logan stayed seated, finishing his own coffee, and realized missing. He no longer felt the weight in his chest that he'd carried during those first few months. He no longer needed to understand why. Bethany had made a choice. Colin had made a choice. And now they were living with the consequences. He picked up his phone and opened the message Janet, his attorney, had sent previous week. It was the contact info for her friend Caroline, a literature professor who'd also gone through a difficult divorce. Janet thought they'd have a lot in common. Logan had ignored the message until now, but something inside him had shifted. Had a simple reply. "Hi Janet, go ahead and give Caroline my number. Thanks." He hit send before he could change his mind. Maybe nothing would come of it. Maybe something would. But Logan was ready to try again. Not because he'd forgotten Bethany or fully forgiven her, but because he realized that staying stuck in the past would only let Colin and Bethany win in another way. The following week, Logan was having dinner with Caroline at an Italian restaurant downtown Denver. She was smart, funny, and carried her own emotional scars that made her understand exactly what he'd been through. They talked about books, about work, about rebuilding trust after betrayal. It wasn't a relationship yet. Maybe it never would be, but it was a beginning. And when Logan got home that night, for the first time in months, he didn't think about Bethany as he closed the front door. He didn't wonder where she was or what she was doing. He simply turned on the TV, made tea, and relaxed. That dumb joke with Jake had destroyed his marriage, but it had also saved Logan from wasting more years with Samin, who didn't value him. He didn't thank her for the pain, but who understood that the truth, however brutal, had given him the chance to choose a better future. Because that truth, no matter how harsh, was always better than living a lie. Logan Caldwell was 38 years old when he discovered his wife was cheating on him. By 39, he had a new life, a different perspective, and the certainty that he deserved better. And finally, he was starting to believe it.